What's up, guys? Welcome back on Sport Vitamins for episode 37. Today, I have the great honor to have LIron Fanan on the show. LIron is the assistant GM of the Canton Charge, the G League team of the Cleveland Cavaliers. LIron has a successful career going from Israel to the G League. Some of the topics that we cover with LIron are the importance of creating a strong network, the transition from European basketball to American basketball, and how to be motivated every single day. So, without further ado, guys, here's the episode with LIron Fanan. LIron, welcome on Sport Vitamins.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you on today. We had so far strength coaches, athletic trainers, but never a member of the front office of a basketball team. So it's amazing. I'm sure it's going to be a great episode.
I'm really, really happy to be here. And it's great that you're doing this podcast because also you're giving such a great stage to, again, as you said, strength conditioning coaches and trainers and all these people in the background, but they're doing such an important job. And there's such a crucial part of a basketball team and the success of players. And it's great that you just, you're here talking about everything around and behind the scenes. And I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks. I appreciate it. So, LIron, for those who don't know you, and in the basketball world, there's just a few people that don't know you. Can you give us a little background?
Yeah, so born and raised in Tel Aviv, Israel. I was lucky enough to be born into a basketball family. My father was very much involved in Maccabi Tel Aviv when I was growing up, and at a certain point, he became the GM of the team. So I was, growing up around the games and practices and being around players until I was about 18, always helping around. When I was in high school, I would, do small work around the team and marketing and ticket sales and all that, just to get to know the business a little bit. Obviously from Israel, so went to the army at 18 for 2 years, and then started kind of my journey. I moved to the States for a few years, went to school in the States, did some scouting, started networking with a lot of people in the NBA, started doing a lot around basketball. I figured out this is my passion. This is what I love to do. Kind of had it in my blood. My brother also played, and he's now the strength conditioning coach for Maccabi Tel Aviv. And that's it. Finished school, went to work, went back to Israel, went to work for Maccabi. Always had a dream of working in the NBA. I was with Maccabi for 6 years before I left when Omri Caspi became the first Israeli in the NBA. I had an opportunity to start this journey with him and left the team to become an agent. Then I didn't really know what would happen or if I would like it after working for so many years with teams. And I actually liked it and started having a lot of clients, started helping guys and signing them in teams in Europe. Ended up having an agency for 10 years. And after 10 years of doing many, many deals in the NBA and Europe and China and Australia, I decided it's time to really go for what I always dreamed and try and get a job in the NBA. Sold my 50% in my agency to my business partner and started interviewing with teams. Honestly, on my interview process, I didn't know what I'm going for. I just knew I wanted to put my foot in and see where it goes. I had about 6 or 7 interviews with teams. And when I met with Kobe Altman, who was our GM back then, and now he's our president, I really, really liked what they did here. I came right after LeBron left, and it was rebuilding time. The front office here is not huge. It's great people, and we all do a lot. So I felt this would be a place for me to kind of do a little bit of everything and be really involved and learn. As you know, team in development is, we we start building something, and you never know where it's going to go. But, our people here are really, really smart, and I learned a lot. And I'm really happy I decided to go with this team instead of going to some different playoff teams or, bigger cities. Really had an opportunity here to grow and learn and work with our G League team and work with our main team and be a part of scouting and be a part of everything else. So this is kind of my journey as a nutshell.
You're having an amazing journey, very successful journey. And as you mentioned, you come from a basketball family. Actually, your brother Reggie was on the show twice.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of just a few guests that was on the show twice. And what are some of the biggest takeaways that you had working for a high-level European team? Like you said, you worked for Maccabi Tel Aviv, which is one of the top clubs in Europe.
Yeah. So, European teams have so many ups and downs. And I think my biggest takeaway, and also like growing in the house that I grew up in, and my father was a very, very devoted GM. He was the GM, but he did so many other things for the team and for the players. He was very much involved. He took care of the players personally, made sure they have everything they need. I think my biggest takeaway is, first of all, the culture. And this is something that we also put a huge emphasis on with the Cavs, building a successful, family-oriented culture. And this is something we had in Maccabi Tel Aviv. We made the players feel very much at home, especially the American ones that came, or any other foreign player and their families. We made them feel like they have someone to go to with every problem they had. And we made them feel very, very comfortable, to the point that all they had to take care of is playing and being their best self on the court, because everything else off the court was always being taken care of. We helped with everything. We helped with their families when they needed. Their living situation was very convenient. They lived in one of the best cities in the world, Tel Aviv, and and everything else they needed was taken care of. And I think that was a big part of our culture, and this was a big part of our success. Because once you see that the organization is doing so much for you, then you want to not only succeed as an individual player, but you want to give back to someone who's taking care of you, right? So I think that was a big part of our culture. Another big part of our culture, which is, it's kind of different in the NBA, because as you know, in Europe, winning is the first thing, and results have to be very immediate. In the NBA, it's kind of different, because when you're going on a process of rebuilding, you take in consideration it's draft picks, it's raising players, and it's going to take a few years. In Europe, it's kind of different. And in Maccabi, the mentality was always winning EuroLeague, winning championships in Israel, winning the Israeli Cup. I grew up in a mentality that losing is not acceptable. And this is kind of the Maccabi Tel Aviv mentality. It's a part of the culture, and in some way the players are buying into it. At least when I was there, we had very, very successful years. We had very successful teams with Anthony Parker and Charas and Matthew Baston and Nate Huffman and all these great names. But the main thing I saw is how much the management and how much the staff was working together to make this thing successful. And this is the biggest takeaway I'm bringing here with me. Also between the G League and the Cavs, to make sure that all voices are being heard, to make sure that you help the guys and use everything you have around you to make them more successful.
That's great. That's a great takeaway. Absolutely. And as far as winning mentality, I always remember your brother telling me that whenever Maccabi Tel Aviv has a new player, he has to teach him what it means to be a Maccabi Tel Aviv player.
Yes, Maccabi obviously is, a club with great, great history in Europe. and great victories on and off the court. I would say we were always the first team to do new things in Europe and join new leagues and try new ventures. And it's just a great club with great winning tradition, but also always trying and achieving to learn great new things and being way up there and successful, as they're trying to, I guess, model NBA teams as much as they can, but fit it to European systems.
Got it. And LIron, you mentioned that you worked as an agent for like
10 years.
10 years?
10 years.
Okay, 10
Yeah.
years. Can you tell us something about that experience, and what are you bringing with you now working in the front office of a team of that experience?
Well, when I started working as an agent, so obviously I started with Omri Caspi, which I didn't really know what I'm going into. I knew I wanted to try because from working with players and the team in Maccabi, I figured I have such a great connection with the players, and I understand their world because I grew up in this world and been a part of it for so long. I want to try and help these guys. So I started, working with Omri. From there, I started working with more players, and it was a way different experience than working with the team, because you're working with individuals, and every individual is an entire world of himself, right? And you have to, for him, he doesn't care if you have 1, 2, 10, 20, 40 other clients. He wants you to take care of him and get him a job and get him the best job you can. And it takes a lot, and you have to be really good and have a huge network in order to facilitate and find jobs for these guys. So I guess turning from working as a team and working with a team of people to doing something on my own with a business partner, and it's only me and him, it's great responsibility, because where we signed these guys was basically how determine how the career would look like, right? Because if I sign him in a team that fits him, his career can jump up really high. If not, I can set him up for failure. So, we were obviously trying to do our best, and we had an agency for 10 years. My business partner still he's an agent and very, very successful. So I want to say we did a good job, but obviously the first 2 years were very hard. We invested a lot into the business, and, we didn't always make the right decisions. Sometimes it was not great decisions, but we learned. I'm very, very proud of the achievement we had and of the careers that most of our clients had. Some of them are playing till this day. Some have retired not long ago, and they had like great careers in Europe. And I learned a lot from it. But the biggest thing I think that I learned from it is that my connection with people in general and with these players is very organic. I don't force myself on people or on players, or the connection is very real and very organic. And I think at a certain point, the players realized that I really wanted to help them and I really cared. And it was more than a business. It was something that is built in me, and it's something that I know how to do. And I learned it from my father. My father was a very unique person in the world of basketball, and he had this great characteristic to just connect with everyone in every level, and he did it very naturally. And I wanna say and hope that I took it from him.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as far as connecting with people, I will jump to the next question. Can you tell us something about networking and give us a few tips on how to network in the right way? And also how important it is if you work in basketball and if you work in professional sports in general to travel?
Well, I say it all the time. Network is, I would say, 70% of the hard work. And I say it because when I was younger, way younger, when I was in college in New York and when I was traveling the world for basketball. I did it in a natural way. I wanted to meet people, and I always, connected and kept in touch with people. I didn't realize that this attribute I had in me of enjoying, talking to people, enjoying being around people, and being such a friendly human being will actually take me this far, because I was too young to understand it. But I really did it because I liked connecting with people and talking basketball. And so on the one hand, being someone who likes to be around people, on the other hand, like basketball, and it just connected. But I think it's very, very important to be in the right places as well. And this is where the travel comes in, because I used to, volunteer myself to all kinds of events. If it was NBA Summer League, if it was FIBA tournament, if it was the EuroLeague Final Four, I used to make sure that I'll be in all these events, because not only you meet a lot of people in European basketball, but you meet a lot of people in the NBA. And if your end goal is to be in the NBA, this is where you need to be. And you need your voice to be heard. And you need people to start knowing who you are and what you do and what do you know to do, right? So I used to be in all these events. I used to walk up to GMs and scouts and everyone I could in the NBA and introduce myself, and started talking to people, and they started to get to know me. So if at the first time they see me and we just say hello and talk, the second time is I'm joining a dinner here or I'm joining an event there, and they start getting used to it. They start getting used to me being a part of this world. And it just evolved. And of course, some of these relationships evolved to long lasting friendships. And I can give you an example. Kobe Altman from the Cavs. I met him a few times when he was still a scout with the Cavs, because David Blatt was the coach of the Cavs, and he came with him to Israel. And this was my initial meeting with Kobe. And then after that, I was running Basketball Without Borders for the NBA in Israel. Kobe was a part of that, and we became even more closer. And then when I was looking for a job, and I saw him in Summer League, and I told him I'm looking for a job, he immediately invited me for an interview and to meet the staff. And I got interviewed by a bunch of people here. And, you never know where these relationships can go. And you never know where you're going to be or who you're going to meet that is going to be helping you at the end of the day. A lot of the people I used to intern with in summer leagues are now in high positions in NBA teams. So we're all kind of have our own network of people that worked together 10 or 12 years ago. And now we're all in NBA teams, so we're in a position to help each other.
That's great. And of course, the more people you know, the more genuine relationship you have, the more you will realize that the basketball world is a very, very small world.
Yes, the basketball world is very small. And you wouldn't realize that, and I tell this to our players all the time. NBA people talk to people all over the world all the time, and vice versa. Coaches will call us and ask about players from our teams or from the G League teams, and it's everyone is connected to someone. I know you, so I can call you and ask you about a player in your team, right? And this is a connection. And like I know you, we know, between me and our scouts, we know people in almost every team in the world, which is crazy, right? And I tell it to our players all the time. The way you do things is so important. The way you handle yourself and the way you conduct on and off the court is so important as a professional, because when you make one mistake, and it doesn't matter if it's small or big, it goes with you for the rest of your career. Because people talk and ask questions, and they want to know, especially scouts in the NBA, they want to know how you are as a person on the court and off the court. And it's just very, very important to be your best self, because these things do not keep hidden if you do something wrong.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. Let's switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about your transition from Europe to the NBA, and
Mhm.
which are the similarities and which are the differences that you noted in the first year, especially.
Mhm. Well, when I came here for the first year, I was director of player development for our G League team. And the G League was kind of new to me because, of course, I knew about the G League and I worked with some players that came from the G League, but I never actually, other than watching some games, I was never really involved in that. Um, and it's a different. The G League is a different beast. It's a very developmental league. I came from a very winning oriented organization, right? And this was what I was used to. Here in the G League, you need to win some games, of course, because it's part of development. Development is part of knowing how to deal with winnings and how to deal with losing and how to develop yourself as a player. But I was not used to, oh, we lost, it's okay. No, I was used to, we lost, it's the end of the world. So I had to adjust myself to a few things. Um, but I learned how to adjust myself to the G League life. But I think the main things are, European basketball is very, very different than the NBA. And I'm not talking only on the court, which I don't need to explain about the difference in the game, but even off the court. European basketball is very, very emotional. You have the fans, you have managements that are involved in as fans, owners of teams who are actually the fans of the team who are part of ownership groups, and everything is very, very emotional. I feel it's very it's smaller organizations, right? Like even in EuroLeague teams, we used to do everything. Um, I had a role, but I used to do 6 roles with Maccabi, six different things. Here in organizations are bigger, of course, it's different budgets, it's huge organizations. And in the front office, even in the front office, everyone has its own role. And yes, we can talk to each other and we can advise with each other and we can bounce ideas off each other, but we all know our role and we all trying to be great in our role so we can benefit the entire system. So it's very, very different, but it's more structured and it makes more sense here in a way, I would say. Um, but you can always help in other things, but not take over other things, because there's always someone else in this role and you can just help them, but which is different than in Europe, because in Europe, in an organization, as you know, you do so many things. And something, someone didn't do something, so you just do it because there's no one else to do it. Um, and it works more as a system, more as a business, I would say. You try in your culture to keep it very, family oriented for the players and try to make it feel like a real home. At the end of the day, it's a business. It's a cutthroat business here. Um, you trade players and you waive players sometimes, and it's not necessarily their fault, and it's not necessarily like because they did something wrong or they didn't play like we wanted to. Sometimes it's the business, it's the nature of the business. It's because of you know the NBA cap or the size of the roster that needs to be, all these other reasons. But it's just different than in the European basketball.
Yeah, also for strength coaches is basically the same thing. Here in Europe, we get to wear so many different hats
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes we need to do something that the physiotherapist should do, or sometimes we need to rehab players, while in the United States, you have athletic trainers that take
Right.
care of that specific aspect. And so, yeah, we need to be very creative sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
we need to solve a lot of different problems.
I can tell you that in the G League, it's a little bit different because in the G League, we really have smaller staffs. I can give you an example. Last year, we went to the bubble. We had a G League bubble in Orlando because of COVID, which was a very interesting experience. We were there for a month and a half. And usually in our G League team, we have one straight conditioning coach and 2 trainers.
Okay.
And to the bubble, we took our strength conditioning coach and one trainer. And it was extremely hard for him, our one trainer, to handle the entire team, obviously. And we had multiple injuries, and we played multiple games in a month and a half. The schedule was very condensed, and our strength conditioning coach actually helped him with the treatments and the rehab, and because you have to wear many hats, and we all did other things than our roles when we were within the bubble. So when we were in the bubble, I really felt like I'm back in Europe doing like many other things. But in general, in G League teams, you have less staff, so you do. But this is also a developmental league, not only for players but also for staff. A lot of NBA teams these days will send young coaches to the G League teams to get more experience, to get developed, and then bring them back to the main team, because you do a lot of different things that you might not have a chance to do with the main team because you have so many coaches with the main team.
Got it. Very, very interesting. Later on, now we move towards the final part of this conversation, and we'll ask you some more, let's say, personal questions. So first of all, I would like to know, which are the defining moments of your career?
I would say I have a few. I guess when after the army, when I went to New York, I went to New York. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I started school there, and I would always, my father, with his connection, always made sure that I would meet a lot of NBA people. And I would meet people in New York and people that come to games and GMs and scouts. And I think one of my defining moments was when Coach Blatt took me and my dad with him to Summer League in Boston. So back in the day, Summer Leagues used to be, before Vegas, used to be in Boston. And it was a smaller Summer League in smaller scale. So Coach Blatt took us there one summer to watch players for Maccabi. And I remember I met a scout from Dallas Mavericks. I think it was the first scout I ever met in my life. And we were sitting together and we started talking. And he explained me a lot, and he explained me a lot about his job and what he does as a scout for a team, and how he looks at players and how he scouts. And I was sitting by him for three straight days in Summer League. His name is Amadou Galofol. He used to play, and then he became a scout. Today, he's the president of NBA Africa. But back then, he inspired me. And by talking to him, I realized that this is the path I want to do. I didn't know if I would want to be a scout, but I knew that eventually I want my journey to end in the NBA. And I think another defining moment was when I became an agent and decided to leave Maccabi, which was my home, where I grew up, where I got all my basketball knowledge. I think it was a very defining moment for me, because not only starting a new business, not only starting on your own, taking this huge risk, but also Omri was going to the NBA, and it kind of opened the NBA world for me as well, in a different way than I knew until now. I was really, really involved in the day-to-day of what he does, and learning how players in the NBA really, their ups and downs, their struggles, their day-to-day. And it kind of gave me a different perspective of everything I had up until that moment. And these were two really defining moments for me.
Got it. And LIron, you're, of course, having an amazing, successful career. But as you just said, everybody goes through ups and downs. How do you make sure to stay motivated every single day?
I think something you have to really, really understand, and it's something that I knew from a very young age. First of all, you have to know to take risks. When I jumped from leaving Maccabi with a very successful role in Maccabi Tel Aviv, in a very comfortable organization, right? A big EuroLeague team. doing something I was doing already in my sleep. I was very familiar with being home, being in my backyard, in the team that I grew up in, was very comfortable. I made a jump. I took that risk and started my own business. Then after 10 years, I decided to take another risk, sell my 50% of the business to my business partner, leave something I built together with him, and take a chance and come to the NBA where I don't really know, you know, how I would do it, or, how successful can I be. Um, I also went out of my comfort zone of living in big cities like New York, Los Angeles, Tel Aviv, big, vibrant cities, moved to a place like Cleveland, which is very different from my speed and what I'm used to. Um, and I just took this huge risk. And I think you have to do it if you want to be successful. Also, you have to be ready to fail sometimes, because your journey or your road will not always be only success. You have to make mistakes in order to get better, in order to learn. And you have to know that even if you made a mistake, it's not the end of the world, but you have to know to learn from it and move on. Learn from it and move on. And these are my two biggest keys. Take risks and learn from mistakes and just keep going, keep moving. Listen, if you have a goal and you wanna achieve something, and it's something you've been manifesting and saying your entire life, I'll be there, I'll get to this, I'll get to that. You have to know that there's no easy way. There's no shortcuts. You have to do everything in that journey to get to that point. I don't know any successful people that it was easy for them. There's no such thing. So yeah, you see, sometimes we look at people like on Instagram, right? We see all the glitz and the glamour and the nice things, but we don't know what they go on the way, what adversity they're facing, what, hard things in life they're going through. And I think it's part of who you are and how you build your character. And I say it all the time, like, our job is hard. We put in a lot of hours and a lot of what we have in this job. And if we don't, we'll just not be successful. And you have to sacrifice a lot.
That's true. LIron, what's the difference between having a goal and having a dream?
Ooh, I think having a goal is something that, you wake up every morning and you work towards. You have a goal, so you set like some kind of not even a written list, but it's a process. You know what the steps you need to take in order to achieve that goal, right? Having a dream, I feel it's kind of similar, but not, because having a dream is something that you're not necessarily gonna get to, but you allow yourself to dream it, right? And I think it's good to have dreams because it always keeps you motivated. But having a goal is something that is more short term, let's say. It's more like, okay, my goal, I set myself goals every year, for instance, right? And my goal this year is to do XYZ in order for the next year to be in XYZ position that I want, right? And what do I do every day for that goal that year? And then in another year, I can have a different goal in the next year and a different goal, where my dream is to be a GM in the NBA one day, right? This is my biggest dream. Do I know when it's going to happen? No. But I know that my goal this year is to do an X amount of things for my team to be successful. This is my goal this year. And then at the end of the year, I need to look back and see, what I did right and what I did wrong.
Great, LIron. Great answer. LIron, usually we finish off with 3 rapid fire questions. You ready?
Yeah.
So, first one, what do you miss the most from Israel?
Wow, it's so easy. I miss my family.
Of course.
My entire family is in Israel. I haven't, because of COVID, I haven't gone in more than 2.5 years. So I miss them terribly. But yeah, Israel is my family and the food in Israel. I miss it terribly.
I miss the food in Israel as well.
Oh, the food in Israel is unreal.
And your favorite city?
My favorite city in the world?
Yes.
Um, I would say Madrid.
I thought you would have said Tel Aviv, but
Oh, Tel Aviv is obvious. Like I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. But from all my travels, I think Madrid is one of the best cities I've been in, and it has such a unique vibe, and of course, like sports around it. But I loved it.
and the last one, I'm really big on reading books. So, is there a book that you would like to recommend us?
A book that I keep going back to all the time is The Alchemist. I feel, it has, every time you read it, you find out something else. It has such I'm a big journey person. I try to explain our players and people in general, like everyone has its own journey, right? There's no right and wrongs, and there's no length to this journey to achieve a goal, right? You can have a short journey or a long journey. It can be full of failures till you get to the success, and it can have small failures and then you get to the success. But I think that book emphasizes that. There's a journey in this book, and this is the biggest thing and the biggest part of life in everything you do, in relationships, in love, in raising kids, as you know, like in everything you have a journey. And I think this book is a big emphasis of that.
I haven't read it yet. I'm gonna add it on my
you have to
my wish list immediately.
You have to.
All right, LIron, thank you very much. It was an amazing episode, very, very insightful. And if some of our listeners would like to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm easy to find on my Instagram, on my Facebook. People send me messages. I always answer. Sometimes not in the same day. Sometimes it takes me a week or two because I'm really, really busy. But I always get back to people.
All right, great. Thank you very much, and have a great day, LIron.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
It's a wrap on episode 37 of Sport Vitamins. Another great episode. LIron was amazing. And if you like the episode, please share it on your social media. And don't forget that you can find Sport Vitamins on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, guys, I'm out.